Lonely Monk Productions.
I don't know if y'all have heard Sweet Sounds of Heaven by the Rolling Stones featuring Lady Gaga and Stevie Wonder yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt and...
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John Philip Sousa, a.k.a. Nate 3.0. Back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I have an incredible chat with singer-songwriter Shawn James. We've never spoken before, but this was one of those conversations that I easily could have sat in for hours. It's a good one, and that's coming up in a minute here. But first, hello, my friends. It is time for our regularly scheduled check-in. So, how are we doing? Are we all good? Surviving week 2 of the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift media onslaught? All right, I kid, but how wild is this, man? I can't believe the attention this thing's been getting. Hot takes are flying left and right, and, well, I want to add my own, so go ahead, roll your eyes at me, but I got thoughts. So join me as I bust out the red string, I place my most tinfoil-y of hats on my head, and I tell you my ridiculous theory about what is going on here. You know, I've seen a lot of people call this a PR ploy, build up for the Eras Tour film or trying to get Travis's Q rating up or something, but I don't think that's it. I think there's something more going on here. You see, Taylor's a lifelong Eagles fan. She bleeds green. At her stop in Philly this past summer, she confirmed that line in Gold Rush, the one with my Eagles t-shirt hanging from the door. She confirmed that was a bird's nod and not an allusion to the Hotel California band. So what I think is going on is she is creating a locker room distraction here. She's trying to create chaos from inside to avenge for the Super Bowl loss and clear a path for the Eagles Bowl victory this year. Guys, she's in her saboteur era and I love it. This is straight vigilante shit. Draw a cat eye sharp enough to kill a man, Tay. Yeah, I know. I'm ridiculous. All right, I got some more upcoming notes here for you. Next week kicks off the Philly Music Fest starting on October 9th at the Ardmore Music Hall with Kurt Vile, Schoolie D, and Emily Robb. And it goes all the way through to the 15th and concludes with our pal Charlie Hall from The War on Drugs and Chris Forsyth at Solar Myth. So many great acts are taking part in so many different venues across the city, and a bunch of these shows are already sold out, but there are still a few tickets that remain, and gang, you will not want to miss it. Head on over to www.phillymusicfest.com for tickets and more info. Also, as part of the Philly Music Fest, they're doing another Inside Hustle event. Inside Hustle is a networking event that they put on in conjunction with WXPN at Rec Philly, and it is free. So if you're into the music biz or you want to get in the music biz and you want to know more and you want to connect with some people in the industry, you are definitely going to want to come out to this one. Our pal Bruce Warren from WXPN is going to lead a panel discussion with Shug Daniels, Augusta Koch from Gladdy, and Charlie Hall as well. Lots of valuable resources here, and I repeat, it is free. All you got to do is jump on phillymusicfest.com and RSVP. So come on out. I'll be there. Come say hi. Let's network. What else? Oh, okay. Have you signed up for the mailing list yet? Well, you should totally do that. Updates are delivered straight to you with every episode, and sometimes there's a little bonus treat in there as well. So get on it. Visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com. You can sign up there, and you can also visit a bunch of links to all things Yo, That's My Jawn, including, of course, the socials, which you can find at Yo, That's My Jawn on all of the platforms out there. So go follow it. Go follow it up. All right. Are we good? We checked in. We handled some business. Cool. So let me take a very short ad break here, and then we can get to my interview with Shawn James.
Yo, That's My Jawn is brought to you by Liquid IV. Guys, it is festival season. And you know me, I love a festival. And the secret to enjoying a festival is to stay hydrated. Liquid IV has you covered while you prep before, power through to the headliner, and recover after the weekend. Liquid IV hydrates 2 times faster than water alone with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Man, I love Liquid IV. It comes in a convenient packaging and it's tasty. When you see me at the Exponential Music Festival this fall, you know that I will have Liquid IV on me. And it comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to keep your hydration routine exciting. All right, strawberry used to be my favorite, but they have this new one. It's strawberry lemonade, and it is a banger. 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. It's non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. So Liquid IV partners with leading organizations for innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50-plus countries around the world. Okay, and you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the promo code YTMJ at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using the promo code YTMJ at liquidiv.com. Do it, and let's get our fests on.
My guest today is a singer and songwriter out of Chicago whose soulful voice travels through a variety of genres, be it rock, R&B, gospel, metal, folk, and blues. His music has been featured on the Discovery Channel show Yukon Men, on CBS's Reckless, and on Showtime's Shameless, just to name a few. But it was his song Through the Valley that became his biggest breakthrough when the lead character of Ellie performed it in the hit PlayStation game The Last of Us 2. On this Friday, October 6th, you can catch him performing at the World Cafe Live in Philly at 8 p.m. And his latest EP, the concept piece titled Honor and Vengeance, is set to be released on November 3rd. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Shawn James. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Shawn James. Shawn, thank you for joining me on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. So I am super excited to talk about just your entire life in music and stuff like that. But I do have to lead things off by saying what a phenomenal voice you have. Like, you just, like, it just hits the soul, man. Like, it just absolutely crushes.
Well, thank you very much. I grew up in Chicago, and I grew up with a weird mixture of like gospel churches. And then on the opposite end of that, when I was in school, they put me in choir and opera. So I have this weird juxtaposition of like soul and then classical world combined. And then I got into high school and I was like, screw all this. I don't want to do any of that. And I got into bands and stuff. So it's just a weird combination of everything I've done over the years.
Yeah. When did your voice break as a kid? Did you always have a deep voice, or?
No. I remember this, actually. It's a funny story. I was in choir, and the vocal coach and the choir director loved me because I was able to hit these high notes, and I was doing all these vocal competitions for the school. And then my voice broke, and then it was like game over for him. Like, he was not so stoked on it. I think it was, I don't know, 11 or 12, something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you said you grew up in Chicago. Like, what type of music was playing around the house?
Oh, man. My mom was into everything, but she was very much into like 70s rock and roll and stuff like that. And then opposite of that, a lot of soul music was always around, like Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, that kind of stuff is my bread and butter. But yeah, a weird mixture of those two things. And then, I grew up in a very, very religious household. So it was a weird, they wouldn't allow me to listen to secular music. And then yet that was the music they loved. And so it's like this weird Um, yeah, it was just strange, very strange with that. But I got a good mixture of everything. I find
Yeah.
that as I got older and moved out, that's when I started getting more music education in general, though, because I was more free to explore and get suggestions from friends that I never got before.
Yeah, when you were a kid and that was kind of the house rule, was there anything you used to sneak back then? Was there like
Oh, hell yeah, man. I remember we used to go to Sam's Club or something, and they'd have CDs, and I would take the parental stickers off of them and be like, yeah, mom, it's a Christian CD we got here. Yep. And she wouldn't listen to it. So I just snuck it right on by.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you always love music? Was it always like in your soul?
Yeah. My mom said, I tell people that I don't remember a time when I wasn't singing. Like I came into consciousness and my memories, I was always singing. My mom said, ever since a young boy, I was singing along with whatever was on the TV or radio. And she just said it was always there. And yeah, I can't remember not loving it. For me, it's interesting because it's been a lot of things for me growing up. I kind of had a little bit of a tumultuous upbringing, with just, father issues, violence, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And music was always my escape, my therapy, my anger, my joy, sorrow, whatever it may be. So I have a very deep connection to it all for sure.
Yeah. You talked about choir and church and stuff like that, but were you taking any instruments? Were you playing any instruments as a kid or?
Just trumpet. Like
Yeah.
they forced me to play trumpet, my family, because they thought, oh, there you go, man. They forced me because I didn't really care. I just wanted to sing. And they were like, well, we want you to know an instrument and read music and all that. And so I got into trumpet and, I'm thankful for it. I'm not great at it today, but I still remember my scales and some fun little things. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. I literally only played trumpet in fourth grade. And then in fifth grade, I switched to clarinet. And then when I got to high school and they found out that I had that small little year of trumpet background, they threw a big, huge baritone in my hands. And they were like, now you play this. So I played that for a few years. But I only just recently bought this because I was having a conversation with someone. And I said, man, I don't think I could remember anything if I picked up a trumpet. And they were like, I bet it would come back pretty easy. And I found this for $10 in a Goodwill.
Oh,
and
that looks nice.
like, right? That's what I thought. It needed a little work. It needs a little little love, but yeah. So I bought it, and he wasn't wrong, man. Like I just started. I was like, oh right, scales are just ingrained in my head now, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny. It was the same thing with me, like the lip position and the mouthpiece came back like that.
Yeah.
And I gave it to my wife and I was like, you try. And no way. It's like blowing air,
I know it well. So when did guitar enter? When did you start playing guitar?
When I was in high school, I joined a band as a vocalist, and then I wanted to learn, and I think I got like a Fender acoustic for mowing lawns one summer. I think I was like 16 or so, and well, no, actually, that's wrong. I at 15, my dad had an old classical that was a POS, man. The neck was massive. And I was like 14 or 15 when I got it. And it was just too big for me. And I hated it. And I tried to learn to play. And it was just so difficult because of the neck and the size of my hands at the time that I gave up. And then I turned 16 and got the Fender. And that was like a much more, easy approach and feel. And that's when I really started learning chords. But I never really wrote songs until I was about, I want to say 24 or something.
Really?
Yeah, I'd always just sung. I'd written lyrics. I'd been in bands as the vocalist, but I never wrote my own songs. And I never had that desire until I got a little older. And I was like, well, you know what? I want to know how to do that. I want to know how to start to finish, write a song, kind of inject the emotions and create the atmosphere so that I can sing the way I want to over it. So at first it was just a tool to be able to sing how I wanted and create the structure, and then I just fell in love with songwriting overall.
When you were just singing, and you were, writing lyrics and stuff like that, did you have a desire to write lyrics, or was it just kind of out of necessity as, well, I'm going to sing these, I might as well be the person who puts my stamp on it?
No, I definitely had a desire to say some things, I think at that point, when I was starting to write lyrics, I was late high school. So I'd been through a bunch of stuff and I was starting to think about how it affected me and this and that, and starting to have big opinions on things, and starting to question religion and all this other stuff that was going on at the time. And so it was a good outlet for me to express those ideas and explore my creativity, really.
Yeah. It was the word I'm looking for here. When you were starting to kind of create that voice, like what would you say it was reminiscent of? Like, what were kind of your influences?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the beginning, man, like growing up in the church and opera, everything was, church was more soulful, but it was all that kind of soul singing and a group of people just going at it. And that taught me emotion through music, because I would see these people come to church and really have these life issues going on, and they had maybe just lost someone or something that happened big in their life. And the way that they would approach these songs and like kind of just like the outpour of emotion, like they were draining. It was like therapy to them. That taught me one aspect. And then the classical world taught me like the structure, but it was very by the book, like you sing this emotion at this point, you do a rise right here, you hit this note and you cut it off there. And as I got older, it just kind of infuriated me a little bit, and I was like, I just want to create what I feel. And so I got into, I think in the beginning, it was more like punk. And then I got into metal, and like, it was completely opposite vocal style. So I was screaming and doing these like heavy sounds that, were against everything that I had been taught and the structure. And it was kind of like, I guess you could say it was a little bit of a rebellion thing, but it was also new and fun and exciting to explore. And so in the beginning, when I was writing my own stuff, it was all that heavier stuff, and very angsty and very just over the top. And I think after I got a little older, I got out of metal bands, and I decided to get back into music, and I wanted to learn how to, like I said earlier, learn how to make my own songs and learn the guitar. And it's then when I reapproached singing clean again that I just fell back in love with that kind of soulful, big bodied voice. And the thing that I learned, though, was from doing the years of metal screaming, it taught me how to sing clean and then get this growl in the singing that I didn't know how to do before. So it was like, it was a weird, I'm just a weird mixture of everything I've done, and I kind of throw it together now, and it's made me what I am.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's almost like you unlocked, like it was a attribute unlock, like in a video game or something.
Yeah. You had to level up. You had to kill so many of these creatures, and then you get this
exactly.
Skill. Yeah, totally.
You had a side quest in metal, and then you came back to the main campaign. It makes sense to me.
That's right.
It works. It's how my brain works. You mentioned kind of church and stuff like that, and I do think you said you've kind of fallen out of the religion aspect, but I feel like and like I'm the same way, but like I think the one thing that I feel like is lost in kind of everybody, realizing things and figuring things out is that sense of community and that sense of like, kind of, I don't even want to say belonging, but that shared moment of like, singing in a church. Yeah. There is something powerful to that, whether there's a higher power or anything like that, the act itself, right? And that is something that I think you've kind of beautifully captured in your work, is you kind of have that kind of presence in your songs.
Yeah, it's something that I've always locked onto early and craved and needed. It's like that sense of when you get chills from anything. Or I like to, now that I've gotten older and have examined everything and been through therapy and all this other stuff, realistically, to me, it's like spirituality without the religious structures to it and the rules. Like I think, and I don't know, I'm probably going to piss some people off or whatever, but I think that some people in church get this sense of emotion from singing in the church with everyone, and they attribute it to God or to a higher power, when I really think that they just need to go to more concerts and have this community fellowship, singing a joint experience together, because it's really a beautiful thing. And I don't know, I can't really put it into words completely, but it's something special. And you know, I'm agnostic these days. So like, and all that I claim that to be is a belief in the unknown. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there isn't. I don't know what may be. I believe that we as humans can't necessarily define what it may be. And we've tried to, and like, no hate on whoever believes that. But for me, I just don't believe we can say what it is. So I just believe in the unknown. And yeah, there's something to be said for that. Like you said, that power of having this joint communal experience and fellowship that sometimes gets lost, you know, with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think you know, I'm very, very similar. I also consider myself agnostic and stuff like that, but I do like there. I feel like at times a lot of people want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? Like there is positive parts, and I think like on both sides that, like, you know, what we're talking about in those moments when, you know, when you're all kind of sharing joy and kind of singing the same thing and just having that release. I think that sometimes some people downplay the power of that and try to ascribe it to something higher than what it is, instead of like appreciating and valuing, you know, the thing that we have created ourselves. And then on the other spectrum, like there's people who, you know, are completely so driven away by faith and stuff like that, that they reject and don't allow themselves to even experience something like that, that is very real, that doesn't require some sort of leap of faith or to believe in, like, say, a talking snake or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's
man. Preach. I'm 100%. I actually talk about this quite a bit because it means a lot to me, you know, and yeah, I agree with what you're saying 100%. You know, I feel like you were saying, it's the extremism on either side. A balance between it is really, you know, take the good of either aspect and make your own way. You know, again, it's not that I have any ill will or hate towards people on any extreme end. Like, if that works for you and that's giving you satisfaction and you're happy with it, my biggest thing is, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, do what you want. You know, like, all good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, community is a good thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you know, you start writing on guitar and stuff like that. Do any of those songs still exist? Do you still dig any of them out, or have you hidden all of those?
No, man. They honestly, the first songs that I wrote became the first songs that I released.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, like I used to go to open mics. I think I was living in Nashville at the time when I really started getting back into it, which is a perfect place for it. And yeah, I was going to open mics and just kind of seeing how other people were doing stuff. And I always say, like, you know, a good foundation is seeing what other people are doing, finding out how they're doing it, stealing it in a sense, and then making it your own. You know, because that's how we learn, is through mimic. You know, that's how I did a lot of stuff. I mimicked the people that I wanted to be like, and then found my own voice by going through there. You know, you don't just mimic and leave it there. You mimic to learn and then take it another step further. But yeah, the first songs that I wrote were the ones that I released. So I had I don't know, I feel like at the time, because I started writing when I was a little older, I knew more what I wanted to say and how I wanted it to come across. Now, the stuff that I was singing in other bands, no, I don't revisit that. I don't even remember half that stuff, man. It's wild.
Yeah, I've long since buried a lot of the stuff I originally wrote because I started like when I was like 15 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so like
I can only imagine.
there's some stuff that, like, I probably won't even pretend I ever wrote. at this point. You know what? I'll share this. Here's one. The second song I ever wrote completely was a song called Al Sprinkler, My Father's My Uncle. And it was just like a fake country song about finding out that there's inbreeding in your family.
That's hilarious, though. That's pretty creative, like a spoof song, dude. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's wild. In between then, you did some sound engineering. Is that right?
Yeah. So I got the pressure that a lot of people get from their parents. Well, what are you going to do? I know this is a passion of yours, but what are you really going to do with your life? You need to go to school, this and that. And I originally was going to go to school for like computer science or something like that, because I was interested in computers and technology as well. And I remember I sampled a couple classes and I just hated it. I was like, there's no way, I can't. I always had a strong pull. Like when something is wrong, I will not do it, and I felt that. And then I started looking like, what the hell am I going to do then? I've got this pressure that, to have a backup plan or another plan, whatever. And so I found this course in Orlando, Florida through Full Sail that was recording engineering. And I was like, well, you know what? Let's try it. I went down there and did the whole demo or walkthrough. And, they sold it really well. It looked cool. It was in studios mixing. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I did. And I went to school for it. I spent way too much money, but I learned a pretty valuable skill set. And although I don't, do the recording engineering thing professionally, I feel like a lot of the skills and knowledge and communication and knowing what those things are enabled me to communicate with engineers in the past for albums and get across what I'm trying to say. And now I have a home studio set up and I know how to do it all, through experience. So in the end, it was a very valuable investment, I like to put it, but at the time it hurt, man.
Yeah, sure. It was another achievement unlock side quest in the long video game of your life.
Man, it's the RPG of life.
That's right. So you start writing and recording, and you've never stopped, because I was looking at your discography and just looking. Yeah. One of the things I always like to look at people's discography is years to kind of see what kind of time they take in between stuff. And you seemingly take no time. Like you are just on to the next project. Has that always been kind of your drive, or is it just the way it's worked out?
So it's funny, by the time that I write the songs and I have them written, by the time I get in the studio, I'm already almost, this is the wrong way to put it, but over it. Like I'm like, okay, that's done. My mind's already moving on when I'm recording the songs almost. Cause like I've already written them. They're already there. I can have the vision in my mind, and it's just finding the way to put that on paper or put it on, digital hard drive or whatever. But the thing that I've always found with myself is because in between or while this is all going on, the releasing and that, I've also been like full-time touring. And I used to do like 250 days a year, ridiculous schedules. Right. And I found that in the in-between time of tours, so I'd record the album, go on tour for a while. By the time I was done with tour, I'm just exhausted, and I get home and, I take a week to recover. So, and then because I don't really write on the road because there's so much going on and my focus is on the performance aspect, the traveling, getting from gig to gig, just executing the show. I don't write while I'm on the road. So because I've kind of starved myself of the creative aspect of writing, when I get home and I have this off time, it just floods naturally. And so that's kind of been the weird roller coaster effect of the schedule and the releasing of albums that I've done. Is it's all been normally in the wintertime because I hate touring in the winter. I've learned, canceled shows, storms, all that fun stuff. And by the time I get home, I just have this itch to create, and whether I've written down an idea of like a concept EP I want to do or a concept album, or whether I'm just playing guitar at home and then, get these song ideas and break out my phone and hit record just to capture the initial idea. That's kind of how it's been for me throughout the last 10 years.
It's great. I mean, like it's produced amazing stuff, so it's working. Don't change it. But so that leads me to the other thing I wanted to ask. The other hand of that is, when do you rest? What does rest look like to you?
Yeah, in the beginning there wasn't much, and I feel like being busy was a way. I guess it goes even further back. I started going to therapy when COVID hit, because I was on the road all the time. I was always busy. And when it got taken away, at first I was like, oh man, this is going to be like a vacation. I get to, and it was for like a month. And then it got kind of sad and depressing and made me realize that I was kind of keeping myself busy and not dealing with some things that I needed to. And so, after therapy, I think I realized that I was running myself ragged and not dealing with stuff and not giving myself the healthy amount of time to actually live a personal life outside of, there's Shawn James, the musician, and the travel road dog and the recording artist. And then what about, Shawn, just the dude who has a cool life and wants to just be something outside of that entity, Yeah. So it was this weird, time, and I sifted through everything, and for the longest time I had no rest, man. And I thought it's what I wanted. I was drinking a lot and doing a bunch of other stuff in between, and it's exhausting. And by the time all that came around, COVID was a big rest for me. It was almost obviously horrible, but in another sense, it was a much needed stoppage, uncontrolled stoppage. Like I didn't have anything to do with it. It forced me to stop and actually take a look and create boundaries for myself in a much more healthy way, to where now I'm trying to find balance for, okay, here's the tour schedule with enough time in between for me and my bandmates to spend time with their families, have other hobbies, do other things in their life and grow. And then here's the recording time. And now I just feel like I'm in a much better place overall. And now I am finding the rest to be healthy, because I also feel like when I first started touring, I was like 25, or no, it was earlier than that. But when I started touring with this, I was 25 and I had all the energy in the world. I could get 3 hours of sleep, next day, wake up, drive 6 hours and give the best show ever. And my voice was recovering well. Nowadays, I have to be a little bit more careful. I'm almost 37 and I can feel certain things starting to be like, oh man, if I do that the next day, this is going to hurt me in this aspect, or my range might not be able to hit the same notes as I could because I didn't get this amount of sleep, or I drank this last night. And that was, so overall, it's a bit of a rant I went on, but I feel like I'm in a much better place, and I'm finally finding the way to balance everything and have a much healthier existence overall.
Yeah, very similar. I'm much older than you, but one of the things I've had to learn in the past few years is I never took care of my voice ever. And now that I'm, you know what I mean? Like,
never did scales, never did warm-ups. I was like, I'm a beast. Like nothing can stop me.
Yeah, and I remember the first time that I lost my voice completely, and I was like, is it over? Like, are we done? Like,
dude, same here, man. I was thinking like, oh man, I'm never going to be what I was. I guess I'm just different now. And I started freaking out, like I'm known for my voice. What the hell am I going to do? And it was just a matter of taking more care of it and being smarter,
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I won't go for that note. Like I know, you know what I mean?
That's another thing, man. I listened to my first record I put out in 2012, Shadows. And that was 11 years ago now. And hearing my voice back then, to me, I sound like a teenager. Like it's so high pitched and nasally and like uncontrolled almost dynamically. Now, my voice is much deeper. I can't even hit some of the notes I used to hit on that record. So I play my standard guitar is now in D standard to make it possible to do everything. And even like you said, some notes, you adjust and you do things differently. And I've just had to accept that's natural in life. You know, like that's going to happen as I get older. It brings about new ways to approach songwriting. And now I have a depth to my voice and control in a different way. I feel like I'm better than I was. But, every now and then I still get the people that are like, oh, man, I miss it when you were like that. And I'm like, well, get over it because I'm not going back in time. I can't do that anymore.
Oh, I know it well, man. I know it well. But I will say, like, for you, to me, it seems like a feature, not a bug. The kind of growing into your voice, like it just kind of, like I said, allows your stuff to resonate so much more.
Yeah. Well, I had to get over. A lot of people have the perfectionist bug, right? And I had that like crazy. And I remember just beating myself up constantly on records. I used to think I hated recording songs because I was such a perfectionist. I'm like, do it again, take it again, over and over and over and over till I got that one take that was perfect. And the truth was, over the years I've learned is that a lot of times the honesty in a really good take, but maybe with a little bit of a break in the voice at this point, actually, gets more emotion in it, shows that you're really striving in it. It's honest, it's authentic. Not that it wasn't before, but it's just that perfectionist thing has kind of slowly gone away at that extreme level. And, I've learned to, again, just balance as I've gotten older and
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is, or at least how I've always seen it, is like perfection is a form of armor and protection, because you are trying to present this as something pristine. Whereas when you have those cracks and stuff like that, and you show a bit of that vulnerability, it's why like someone like Beyonce, I've had this conversation a lot, but someone like Beyonce is a phenomenal singer, right? She's just perfect, but there's something about it that I just can't connect to because it's not even that it sounds fake. It just doesn't have that vulnerability to it, and that's what I look for in a voice personally,
I get it completely, man. It's like a lot of people use the term overproduced, but yeah, it's like you said, vulnerability and like an authentic genuineness in performance. That's one of the biggest things that translates for me. And I mean, I love Beyonce too, but how cool would it be if she did like a stripped down acoustic set of a lot of her songs just to hear the more raw. That's what I was looking for.
Raw, yes.
You know what I mean? Then it would just be like, whoa, a whole nother level, to me. And that's something that, would be really cool. And I agree, man.
Yeah. You mentioned doing therapy over the pandemic. I'm a big mental health guy. Like like you said, I understand that the pandemic was a tragedy because it was, but there were little things that came out of it. Like I feel like as a society, we're a touch little better at looking at mental health and kind of respecting it and stuff like that. Has it affected your songwriting? Like, have you seen noticeable differences in the way that you create now?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things before doing therapy and before COVID is when I would write these really emotionally intense songs and really honest, brutal, kind of introspective stuff about my life, I would almost be ashamed. I would be like, this is cheesy. This is, I don't know. Am I being too honest? I feel like there was a sense of shame about it, and feeling like people don't want to hear this and blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards, I feel like I've grown more comfortable. I will say it never stopped me from releasing the songs, even when I felt shame about it. But now I feel more at ease and comfortable actually being in that space, being vulnerable, and letting and showing people how I feel and why I wrote the song and explaining things and allowing people to connect. And I hate being put on a pedestal. I just want to be down to earth and real. And, I don't want to be idolized like that. I just wanted people to realize that I'm just another guy. Yeah, maybe I have a unique voice, but I've learned how to interpret my life and even stories I make up like mythology. There's something for me, stories and legends and folklore is a really cool way to translate things in life that might be hard to talk about, but you can kind of metaphorically do it. And so that would be the thing. I don't have that blockage up, as much as I did before. And I think therapy really helped me with that. And just in general in life, move beyond some things that were just weighing me down that I'd never even talked about. I never realized were affecting me, from my past. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. And I think more people, I grew up in a family and environment that demonized that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I never did it, never thought I needed it. I'm fine. I got beyond all that. But in the end, I did need to talk about it. And I needed an external perspective to kind of sometimes validate what was messed up or what was, just another opinion on it. It was really cool for my perspective on it all.
Yeah. I very, very similarly, over the pandemic and the past few years have kind of found myself somewhere buried in myself. But like one of the big things for me was like, my family was never against sharing or, they weren't emotionally closed off or anything like that. But one of the things is that we avoid everything. We would just avoid
brush it under the rug.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't like, no, don't talk about it. It was just like nobody talked about it. You weren't told not to talk about it. It was just like, yeah, we're all just dealing with our own things and we all know what's happening. And, we'll just, so like, that's one of the things I've been trying to, work on is like not avoiding feeling, I guess is what it comes down to. Like my new mantra is you're allowed to feel things like
100%, man. Yeah. My thing is like I used to be very reactionary too, with stress and with obstacles. I'd react real fast. And now I'm just like, pause, take a minute and it's fine. We'll find a way around it. And I'm getting better, day by day. It's just all you can do is, one step at a time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bouncing around, this is what happens when your host has ADHD.
I love it, man. This is one of the best interviews I've done. I will tell you already.
I appreciate that. But we were talking about achievement unlocks in video games and stuff like that. So I got to talk about Through the Valley,
of
being
course.
in The Last of Us. How the fuck did that happen?
So I'll give what my experience was, and then I'll tell you how it actually came about. So my experience was, I think I was touring in like 2014, and I was in Chicago. I was at a venue called Liars Club in Chicago, and we had a show. And I remember loading out from the show, and I get this email on my phone. I'm like, what the hell? From Sony, whatever. It seemed very official, and I thought it was just like I don't know, either a promotion or some BS, right? And I open it, and they were Sony in affiliation with PlayStation. Hey, we're interested in your song Through the Valley. And let me know if you're interested in doing this. And so I emailed them back. I was like, yeah, of course. And they came back to me with, well, we can't tell you. We want Through the Valley. We can't tell you what we're going to do with it. We're not going to tell you what game. They did tell me it was going to be a game. They told me it was going to be a AAA game, which was massive, right? And they were like, we're not going to tell you if you're the one singing it, if someone else is singing it, if they're just singing a portion, how it's going to be used, your likeness. They wouldn't tell me anything. And at first I was like, I don't know, like, this is my baby. What if they use it in a weird way? What if it's not how I wanted it? And I remember I talked to a couple friends, and one of them was like, you're an idiot if you don't do this, because look at you right now. You're very underground. You're struggling. You're digging in everyone's pockets just to find gas money to put in the tank to get to the next show. We're sleeping in the van overnight outside hotels, stealing their Wi-Fi, like, stuff like that. And I was like, no reward without the risk. Right. And eventually I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see what happens. So I took the risk. And I didn't hear a word for like 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 years. I agreed, did the deal, NDA, all that, and then never heard a thing. And I was like, man, I wonder if this is still happening. Then one day, it was in 2016, towards the end of 2016, they were doing the PlayStation Experience event, which was right around the holidays, I believe. And they emailed me out of nowhere. And they were like, hey, you should watch this event. And I was like, okay, that means maybe something's going to come about. And it was like a 3-hour event, right? And so I'm watching, nothing first hour, nothing second hour, nothing in the beginning of the third hour. And I was like, oh man, a mistake made, or they saved the best for last. And this is a massive deal, more than I was thinking. And then boom, the trailer for The Last of Us 2 comes on, and Ellie's playing my fucking song, man, Through the Valley. And it was just mind blown. My phone gets blown up by so many different people, like, what the hell? I didn't know this and that. And yeah, so that's, in my perspective at the time, that's how it came about. Out of nowhere. I wasn't pitching for it. I wasn't trying to do that kind of thing. It just happened, And context here, Through the Valley was released in 2012, was one of the least popular songs I'd ever put out, although one of my favorites. I used to play it live, and then I stopped because people didn't like it, would talk over it. I started playing more like crowd satisfying stuff, right? That would get their attention, more vocally intense, or doing band stuff and doing different stuff that's impressive, slide guitar to catch people's attention. That song was more stripped down and raw and emotional. A lot of people at bars drinking didn't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? That was the vibe I got from people. So I stopped playing that song, man. Like, I never in a million years thought Through the Valley would be the one, And then that happened, and it blew my mind. And overnight, the song got 1 million streams, and then it just kept going up from there. All of a sudden, we were playing shows, 50 to 100 people, and then that doubled and tripled. And like, just a beautiful, we had worked for years, Road Dogs for years. And then this one thing, I was almost mad at it at first, because I was like, I've been doing nothing different for years, right? And now, all of a sudden, now I'm respected and people are taking me serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, it was all reactive stuff. Now I'm super, obviously, grateful and appreciative of everything. But I remember having a little piece of me that was like, what the hell, man? Like, long story, I know. But so the other perspective of how it came about, after the fact that it came out, I connected with Neil Druckmann, the creative director of the game. And I talked to him, and I was like, man, I got to meet him and hang out a bit. Now we're friends, we're cool on that level, which is crazy. And at the time I met with him, and I remember I went to lunch with him outside Naughty Dog. He invited us to the studio, and we went to lunch, and I was like, you got to tell me, how did you come across it? Why this song? How did this happen? Because all I know is this experience. And he was like, well, we were originally looking for a Johnny Cash song. We wanted to use a Johnny Cash song. And I guess, don't quote me 100% on here, but I guess something happened where they couldn't use it for one reason or another, whether that was copyright clearance or publishing. Something happened. They couldn't get it. And so he went on YouTube, and I guess he was looking at Johnny Cash covers or something like that. And I had played this house show in like 2013 that was super stripped down. I didn't even know this video was online. I covered this Johnny Cash song called God's Gonna Cut You Down. And he saw that and liked my voice and liked my vibe and style, and was like, this was 2013, so I only had one album out at the time. And so he goes and looks me up from there, finds the album Shadows, listens to the album. I think Through the Valley is like the 6th or 7th song on the album, gets to that song and stops and was like, this is perfect. This is what I've been looking for, like the post-apocalyptic feel. It just matched. Honestly, when I knew it was The Last of Us, I was like, there couldn't have been a more perfect match for that song, like the death and vengeance and the heaviness and everything about it kind of matched perfectly with what was going on with Ellie and Joel and the adventure. So That's how it came about. He found it through there, had his team reach out, and that's how I got the email. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was just doing my thing, and out of nowhere, the crazy thing to think about now is like, if I wouldn't have played that house show, if one person there wouldn't have taken that video and put it up online, I might not have ever gotten this opportunity to do this and have this experience in my career. It's a wild, crazy thing, and something I tell artists all the time that are up and coming and looking for advice how to make it. And I'm like, just do the work, enjoy the journey, because half the time it's going to be something from that journey that you least expect, that because you did it, that all of a sudden someone hears or something hits that makes it possible for you to step up to the next level. A lot of times when you're seeking out these opportunities and trying real hard to get them, it feels, I don't know, it's something in life just like says, nah, but it's like when you're just doing the work and being and living that life, I find that more often than not, I find that that's when opportunities come to me.
That's beautiful. First of all, both versions of that, your version and then what happened, twice during that did I get like legitimate chills. Like I was just like, this is it. This is the dream, but to that point, like, that's why, like, I always try, same thing when I'm talking to people, I'm always like, you got to present every show as if, like, somebody, it could be the one, every single performance, no matter how big or small, if you put your all into it, if you're true and you're your honest self and you're just giving you're just presenting you, it'll work. You know what I mean? Like, they'll find it.
Don't put on a front. Or I know people that put on a front and have like a whole stage persona that it works for too. But for me, it's really just living that life and being honest and genuine. And that connects with more people than anything, period. So
absolutely. Tash Sultana did a version of it. Did you guys ever get to do it together, or did you guys ever get to collaborate?
No, it never happened yet. I reached out and we've been like in touch and stuff, but that is something that's still a goal of mine. Maybe someday we can kind of make that happen, because I love Tash Sultana. She's great. I love her style. I love what she did with the song. That's another beautiful thing is like there have been thousands of covers of people singing Through the Valley, from full band to like Romanian versions by like, it's crazy the stuff that I've heard. Heavy metal, black metal versions, like, but yeah, no, the Tash Sultana thing, that'd be amazing to make happen. Tosh, if you're listening, I still want to do it.
That's incredible. Let's put that energy out there.
That's right.
As a matter of fact,
that's right.
The latest thing that she put out, have you heard the song with her and BJ, the Chicago Kid? It's phenomenal.
I haven't. I love BJ too, so I haven't heard that.
Oh, it's good. Check that out. out.
Man, I'm gonna right after this. That's awesome.
Watch this segue. You just we were talking about her covering that. You are also kind of known for some of the covers you do. See how good that was? Like, this is what they pay me for.
Smooth, man. You're a pro.
But you pick really phenomenal covers. Like, what connects you to a song that makes you not just play it, but like actually want to cut it?
Yeah. So I get requests all the time, and first and foremost, it's a couple things. For me, it's nostalgia. If there's like an old school song I used to love and listen to that I'm nostalgic about, I'm going to connect naturally to it. The other thing is just sometimes I'll be like, nah, I could never cover that. And then I strip down the song and I learn the chords and I just take an hour or two and just mess with it. Feel my feelings about it and actually read the lyrics too. That's another thing. One of my favorite things to do is to retranslate a song that was presented in one way and then go a whole nother way with it. And the lyrics fit perfectly in the other way too. So yeah, for me, it's just, does the song make me feel? Do I connect to the words? Is the melody something that really, when I sing it, do I feel it? That's, people want me to cover stuff all the time. And it's not that I couldn't cover it and do a great version, but for me, I have to personally connect and feel something to it. And I know a lot of people are disappointed out there that I don't cover certain things, and it is what it is, man. Like I'm very stubborn about that approach with covers, because Another thing is I'm not just a cover artist. 90% of the stuff I put out are originals, and you get into the game of doing too many covers, and then it's like, well, I don't want to be that guy either,
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very picky and choosy, and I don't do them very often. But when I do, it's got to be one that connects in some way, makes me feel, and that I feel like I can. That's another thing that's big. I feel like I can take the song and re-record it as a version of the song, not just mimic the cover word for word, note for note, style for style. I think you're never going to, in my opinion, you're never going to do it better than the original artist, right? So why would you try to do it the exact same way they did? Retranslate it, show respect to them by, having your own emotion and being influenced by their song to retranslate it in a way that's your own. That's like E for a cover for me.
That's awesome. You are talking about people that suggest them. Is there any song that you've gotten 50 million times that people have asked you to do that you're just like, nah, it's not there?
There are, but to be honest, sometimes they grow on me.
Oh yeah.
Like people for the longest time want me to do Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, right? And like at first I was like, I like the song as is, right? But like, I don't know, it just never did. And then one day I was like, you know what? I just never tried to play it. And so one day I was like, you know what? Let me just strip this down myself. So I got the chords, I learned the song, I started playing it, and I got chills. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
They were right. I haven't put that one out yet, though. And now I'm sure when people hear this, I'm going to get even more. But yeah, there's stuff like that. Hurt by Johnny Cash was the same thing. Hurt by Johnny Cash, I actually put out a YouTube cover of it. But it wasn't a full studio production quality. It was just like I was doing this live stream, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it for y'all right now. And the hang up with that song for me is that I don't think I or anybody could touch that song with the way that Johnny did it. What he did and what he was going through when he covered that song is just so heavy, man. And the video he put out and everything. And that's kind of what made me feel like it just almost is an ickiness about it, like a feeling of wrong. Like, why would you even do that? That don't touch that, but yeah. I, of course, I can put my spin on it, and I love what I do with it, but I almost have hangups like that with some songs,
it tracks.
And it is what it is, I might still put it out one day. It's just, sometimes it's the timing,
Yeah.
And the feeling of that. But yeah, sometimes I'm trying to think of another one that's like a hard no for me. Man. Oh, I know. Anything by a current artist that's like Hosier or Kaleo that people like to compare me to, or like Rag and Bone Man. I get it. These are all peers and people that I respect and love their music, right? But asking me to cover one of these people's songs is just it's kind of ridiculous to me. And that's a hard no for me, just because dude, that dude's doing his thing and he's a modern guy right now. I don't want to compare and all this other stuff. It's just it's a hang up in my head that I'm just hard no, won't do that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me. I wouldn't have gone there, but once you said Hosier, I was like, oh, I can see why.
One of the most common comparisons I get. And honestly, when I was younger, it used to piss me off because I was like, no, I'm different, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, we are similar in a lot of ways. Homie has a really soulful, intimate voice, and he injects a lot of passion and emotion in his songs. That's huge, man. I do the same thing. Now I think we're very different as well, right? But I get the comparison, and I love him too, man. He's a fucking amazing artist for sure.
Absolutely. One of the other ones that I wanted to mention is the Macy Gray cover that you did for the Grammys Reimagine.
That was one, dude. That was one I never thought I would do. I remember I was recording my album, The Dark and the Light, at the time, and I was living in LA, and the Grammys hit me up. Another one of those, what the hell email is this? I thought it was another, fake email or some sort of scam, right? And then it wasn't. It was like Grammys Reimagined is like this program for, new artists to take a classic song that's either been nominated or won and retranslate it into your version. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do this. So originally I was going to do Percy Sledge, When a Man Loves a Woman.
Ooh.
Oh, and dude, I fucking crushed that one. I still haven't put it out. I need to. But I felt all sorts of ways about that song. It was on the list. I was like, I'm doing that one. And I sent it to him. I was like, I'm going to do this one. They're like, actually, no. And I was like, no. I had gotten my hopes up. I had rehearsed it. I felt like I could like get into that performance where I give myself chills. That's another big thing. If I can give myself chills and really get into the performance every time, then that song's right for me. That's like, I got to feel something to make you feel something. That's number one. So I was like kind of sad about it, man. I was bummed. And then we were looking through the list and I remember I was with my producer, recording engineer, Jimmy Messer, and we were in the studio recording the album. And I was like, man, they said I couldn't do this one. And he was like, well, how about we take a look at the list together? And maybe I have like a perspective or insight that you wouldn't think of. And we're looking through and he calls out, I Try. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's like a pop song, and he was like, yeah, but look at the lyrics. And, I think that if you put your thing, I think you could really, he's like, I think this is the one. And I was like, I don't know. So I remember I went home and he was like, just do your thing, go learn the chords, spend an hour or two with it. So I remember I was at this place I was renting and I remember I smoked a little bit. I got a little stoned because that sometimes puts you in the state, and I started playing it. And then it was like, boom, immediately. I was like, oh yeah, dude. I actually read the lyrics and I was like, dude, this is a fucking sad, depressing song about dealing with either addiction or a relationship issue and wanting to come back to it, but knowing it's not good for you. And like, there's a lot you could translate it a bunch of different ways, but I kind of translated it that way and I connected to it so hard, so quickly. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And then, yeah, that was it, man. And then, it was okay. It was all right with me. A lot of times, sometimes that initial gut feeling of like, I don't like it. Nope, not doing it. And then you just got to take some time and feel it out.
Yeah. It's another email story. I want to know how many emails that you thought were spam that you deleted that were actually some other big giant.
I'll never know, man. I guess I deleted them, unknowingly. But half the time I was always under this mindset of like too good to be true. You know what I mean? And some of the biggest opportunities have just come like that randomly. There's also been a lot though that were too good to be true, and so yeah,
the Nigerian prince, not really.
Oh yeah.
I love it. So you're playing the World Cafe on October 6th. How long? When's you said the tour starts very shortly, right?
Yeah. So the band comes in, and we start rehearsals on September 12th. I normally like a week of rehearsals. I don't like to do too much, but not too little, a good balance. And then tour starts. I think we leave September 18th. First show's on the 19th in Seattle. And then it's full US and major city Canadian. We're doing, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. But yeah, full US and about 27 shows in 30 something days. So a big haul, big run.
It's killer. Do you with your newfound being able to take breaks, do you still enjoy the road? Are you still a road dog?
Yeah, dude. I feel like it only makes me appreciate it more now that I take more. Like I don't take it for granted. Not that I ever did, but there's a sense of freedom of leaving everything behind and going on this mission with your friends and just having this unique fellowship and community, and then also connecting with people all around the world. I never thought I'd ever be able to do it. And it's a beautiful existence that I will always appreciate and do it for as long as I can, It's yeah, no, I love it. I truly love it. There's ups and downs to everything, like there's stressful times. Like we're in the state of the tour right now because we run everything DIY, so me and my wife are the tour managers, the advancers, the preppers. We're doing a tour bus for the first time ever because for 10 years we did, vans, trailers, sprinters, RVs, this and that, and doing all the driving ourselves. And last year really weighed on us. We came back out of COVID with a full schedule and we're like, we're going to do it the way we've always done it. And man, it weighed on us. It was exhausting going from place to place, not only getting a few hours of sleep a night. So what I did was I avoided it for many, many years because I thought it was a bad thing the way other bands have done it. But I implemented a VIP program that I felt like I could taper an experience and an authentic, make it worth the money that we're charging for it, capping it at 25 people a night. They're getting merch items, unplugged acoustic show before the actual show, like a bunch of really cool things that I would, if I loved an artist, I would immediately do that. You know what I mean? So I feel like I made it right. And what it's doing is it's literally paying for the amenity of a bus and a driver so we can have a little bit of an easier existence and give a better performance night to night and be able to do this in a healthier way. So yeah, it's the first time and I feel very fortunate to be able to do it. They're almost all sold out, which is another thing. Our fans have really supported us and have really made it possible for us to grow and not have all this weight on our backs and stress, not only of living that life, but, taking away the travel stress, which is a huge portion of it.
Dude, that's killer. Like, it's one of the things like that I really think another one of those benefits that came out of COVID is I feel like the relationship between musician and listener has gotten so much better that when you present something like that VIP program, like there are people who absolutely, absolutely would help support that, especially like you said, you're capping it. It's not some kind of gross cash grab or anything like that.
No, it's not for profit. It's literally to pay for something that'll make our lives easier on the road and give better shows, and I got a little in the beginning when I announced it, man, I got a few comments that were like, I never thought he would do something like this. And I was like, oh, hell no, type. I just went off. And like, I backed up. First, I was angry. But then I was like, you know what? I get what you're saying. It's why I have avoided doing something like that for 10 years, because I feel like with a lot of artists, it's a cash grab. They just want more money. They want to get more things. But the way that I found to be okay with it was to actually present something that I felt was worth the money that I would pay for one of my favorite bands that I was going to see. So, and once I did explain myself, I didn't have to explain myself, but I did because I wanted people to understand where I was coming from. And it was accepted so warmly. And even the people that were talking shit turned around and were like, whoa, actually, I get it now that you kind of laid out why it is you're doing this. And it turned out to be a beautiful thing. That's another thing, like being honest with your fans and kind of removing this veil that a lot of artists have. Like, oh, I'm on a stage, I'm on a pedestal, I'm a rock star or whatever. Like, cut the shit, man. Like just be authentic and connect, and it's gonna make everything so much better. So yeah, I feel lucky, very lucky.
Awesome. I love it. Well, at this time, you want to go through my Jauntlet questionnaire. These are the questions I ask every guest that comes through this work. It starts with the one-hit wonders. You're just picking a favorite. First one, Billy Joel or Elton John?
I'm going to go with Billy Joel.
Yeah.
I think that, do I have to explain why?
If you'd like. Yeah, absolutely.
I would say just personally, I feel as though some of the songs from Billy Joel I've connected to a bit more. So not knocking Elton John. He's a hell of a writer and performer as well. Love him as well. But I think I just connected a little bit more to Billy Joel. That's it.
I dig it. You have any Billy Joel in your repertoire? Is there any that you...
I never have, but now you're going to make me think more, man.
I'll submit my suggestions.
I love covering the classics.
It's awesome. Next one, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Joan Jett.
Yeah.
I think Joan was just much more raw and more of that rock and roll kind of straightforward attitude, like all about it. Yeah.
I dig it. Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
This was a tough one for me, man, because I'm big on my soul singers. But in the end, I have to go with Aretha because I feel like the gospel and soul element in her stuff. Oh, I'm not be careful how I say this. Tina felt like she was a powerhouse too, man. Don't get me wrong. But there was a more pop element to her, in my opinion. Whereas Aretha had this like church girl. Oh, man. I remember there was this documentary they put out. And when I watched that, it just backed it up even more. It was like her performing at some church. And my God, it was one of the best vocal performances I've ever heard. So Aretha. I love Tina too. Don't hate me.
That's killer. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Nirvana. For me, I don't know. I dig some of Pearl Jam stuff, but for me, it was an immediate with Nirvana. I connected to them a bit better. More, they're both awesome, but again, no reason why. Maybe it was just the timing of how I grew up and what I was exposed to. So for me, it's Nirvana.
All right, right on. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Janis, for sure.
I saw that one coming.
Yeah, just the rawness and the soulfulness and the attitude and like when Joplin would unleash and hit it. Stevie's great, but I don't think she's ever done that kind of stuff.
I love it. The big cliche one, Beatles or the Stones?
I don't even know if I can pick, man. In terms of performance, I probably would go with Stones, but in terms of songwriting and sheer catalog and diversity, Beatles for sure. But Stones, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could choose. It's like I said, there's like a weird, I like some things. If it was like, oh, creativity, Beatles. If it's, vibe and overall atmosphere, probably the Stones. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get a definite on that.
The listeners of this are about to roll their eyes because they know what's coming. I say it all the time. But to me, the Beatles were like four geniuses, whereas the Stones are like a band. All right. And like that. So like that's why I always give the Stones just a slight edge, is because and that's not to discredit anything the Beatles were as a band,
totally,
because they
man.
were tight as hell too. But
I feel like I would honestly say the Beatles have more songs, more classic songs that I actually probably know, and a wider, much bigger repertoire. But something about the Stones just makes me feel a certain way. I don't know.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. The last one of the one-hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah?
Man, they're both fucking crazy vocalists in their own right and everything else. And musicians. But I think it was the live performance that he did at the, I forget where it was. It was like the World Aid Benefit thing. And his connection with the audience and how he was a force to be reckoned with, man. Yeah. And my mom loved Bohemian Rhapsody. She would always sing it growing up. So there's like a nostalgic vibe there.
That is beautiful. I love that.
That's completely. Really what puts it over for me, that nostalgia, Yeah.
That's awesome. The next section is the top 10 countdown. We kind of talked briefly about it before we started, but Jawn can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be music. It can be anything in the world. Number one, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with as a kid?
Okay, two answers. Singing, obviously, because I said like I did, but then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah? Did you see the new movie yet?
No, man, I haven't seen it yet. Is it good? Have you seen it?
It's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
There's part of me that misses the dudes in the outfits, like the old school movies. But I need to just bite the bullet and go, because I'm sure it's fun stuff.
It made me feel like a kid again. Like it brought a lot back, man. It was awesome. Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
So recently I've started jujitsu. And that is something I've always wanted to learn, a martial art in life, but I just never had the time or never devoted to it. And it's the hardest physical thing I've ever done in my life. I come back with new injuries almost every time, but there's something about it that is, I don't know. I feel like I need to get out a lot of physical exertion and energy. And for the first time, I feel more balanced, not just with songs creating that or music performance creating that, but physicality. There's something about it that's really given me a really cool understanding. And there's like a therapeutic element to it. And it's like a mind puzzle. But to be honest, like I started last October and I had to push pause last week on it because I was like, I can't get injured before rehearsals and tour. So I want to do it. I'm like aching for it, but at the same time, it's not worth compromising a tour coming up. So I had to push pause. So I guess I'll be back at it this fall. But yeah, jiu-jitsu it's really gotten a lot of popularity. It's like become the martial art recently. And I kind of get why, man. It's fun. It's hard as hell. Hardest physical thing I've ever done. Like I come back and I feel like I need a nap, man. It's wild. The most I've ever sweat in my life. It's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was you pointed out my only concern, which was I was going to say, but what happens if you get your arm stretched and then you can't play? Like,
yeah. So I mean, honestly, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and the worst time, supposedly, from I hear from everybody, is in the very beginning when you're a white belt because you're fighting against other white belts. So, if anyone there was a dude that was like doing a wrist lock on me and I was like, stop, tap, stop. And then I just stopped and I was like, look, this is what I do for a living. I understand you won. Good job, whatever. But like, don't do that shit to me again.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do. Please have respect or I won't roll with you. That was it. And, I've been headbutted. I almost broke my nose one day. There's been a lot of things, but I find the more that I do it and the better I get at avoiding injuries as well. So in the beginning, it was way worse and it's starting to get a little better. So I'm not doing it to compete. That's another thing. People that are doing competitions are getting way hurt quicker. I'm not going to do that. I just want the life's lessons and skills,
That's awesome. I love it. Number 3, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you saw?
This is a funny one, man. Jars of Clay, the old Christian rock band, because again, I grew up in a very strict, it's weird. I grew up in the South Side of Chicago and then also in a very strict upbringing because of that almost like my parents were scared of that and they had come from that world. And one element I was around gangs and gangland stuff and violence and prostitution and all this stuff. And then the other hand, they were so tight gripped because, they were scared and they ran from it. But Jars of Clay, because it was the first one I could convince them to take me to. And because it was Christian, it was okay.
That's wild. I just had a conversation with someone. There was like this weird period in like the late 90s, early 2000s where there was a lot of crossover bands that like you wouldn't, mainstream people wouldn't find out until like halfway through, like, oh wait, they have 5 Christian rock albums now.
Or they never knew that or something.
Yeah.
They got smart and they weren't like shout to the Lord. It wasn't like praise music. They would like, instead of saying Jesus, they would say maybe something a little different that could be translated as like a girlfriend or love or I think they just got smart.
Exactly. I forget. Oh, I think it was like I think it's Switchfoot. There's a tribute album coming out too.
Yeah, I love them.
And I was confused because I was like, look, Switchfoot's fine and all. I have nothing against them, but like I was like, who's doing a tribute to Switchfoot? And then I found out, and then I started like looking a little, and I was like, oh right, the Christian rock background, because like it's like I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's got like the Jonas Brothers are on it, and one of the guys from 21 Pilots. Like it's like this weird collection of people, and I was like, who put this together? And then once I found that, like started like doing the research, I was like, oh, okay, it all makes sense. Like, I'll check it out.
I ain't heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Number 4, what was your last concert? What was the last live show you saw?
The last live show I went to saw, I live in Portland, Oregon now, and like a few blocks down the road is like the oldest dive bar in one of the oldest dive bars in the U.S. It's called the Sandy Hut, and they were doing 100-year celebration of being the Sandy Hut, and they had the metal band High on Fire playing, and I was like, hell yeah, man! I haven't seen a Matt Pike, so I walked over, had a few drinks, and just enjoyed the show. This was like a couple weeks ago.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It worked out.
Number 5, what was your favorite concert? What was the best live show you ever saw?
I would say it's split. These two shows would be the shows that have given me the most chills ever. One of them is a Norwegian band. We saw them. I was on an acoustic tour in Europe, right? And this band's called Wardruna. They did the soundtrack. A lot of people know them from the soundtrack to the original Vikings season and maybe a couple of the following ones, but they do this authentic Viking using traditional instruments that they used thousands of years ago or whatever. And it's instrumental and just like this ritualistic, almost spiritual thing. And we saw them. We got to see them live in Oslo. And they had a children's choir and an adult choir with them as they're doing their thing. And it was one of the most chill-inducing shows I've ever seen. The main guys, two children were in the children choir. It was just crazy. Man, I can't even put it into words. It was ridiculous. So that was one of my favorites ever. I don't know if another show, I didn't think any show could compare. And then I recently saw the Mars Volta in Seattle. And the Mars Volta is one of my favorite bands, man. And they blew the roof off the place. You know, they have that element of intensity of skill and rock and heaviness, but then they stripped it back and it was just so emotional and psychedelic, and just the way they weaved from song to song. It was like the transitions were gorgeous. The his anthemic vocals and melodies and the way they do stuff, it inspired the hell out of me, man. And I took a bunch of notes that I'm implementing in for this next tour as well. So like, I love doing that, man. I love seeing things and being like, ooh, I feel what you did there. I want to do that. I'm going to take that and tweak it and do it in my own way and add it to my show, you know? So yeah, Mars Volta was another one that, in a completely different experience than Wardruna. Absolutely night and day, but still similar with the feeling and the chills I got.
Oh, it's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah. For me, I have a very weird emotion. It's an emotional thing, but it was I saw Beck back in 2014. And it was essentially the weekend that we call the first date between my wife and I. And so Beck comes on and it starts raining and we had lawn seats and we were like just dancing in the rain and stuff like that. And it was just like like it was a little bit less what was going on stage and a lot more what was going on. But that's definitely by far.
That's beautiful, man. Were you going to say something about the Mars Volta? I think I cut you off there.
No, but what I was going to say was the choir, the adult and children's choir. It all comes back to the gospel community again. Like it's man. There's
just oh my God, their kind of choir was like a weird medieval, barbaric, old. It felt archaic. There was something about it that was just like. Oh, I get chills even thinking about it, man. It's ridiculous.
I love it. That's killer. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
I made the biggest mistake of my life with this one. I was living in Nashville at the time, and I had the chance to see Etta James at a vineyard, at a very small, intimate vineyard show, dude. Instead, I decided I needed to make money that day. I got offered a shift and I didn't buy the tickets. I didn't go to the show. She played the show. And I think a few months later, she died.
Oh, God.
Broke my fucking heart. It is my number one regret with shows that I will never get to make up for, man. I learned my lesson then. I was struggling back then. I needed bread, of course. But now looking back, I was like, would have been worth the struggle even more, dude. That's a legend. She wasn't even doing many shows, man, at the time, like not even doing much. And she was at a vineyard, very intimate. Probably would have been like a jazz set, dude. I'm never going to forgive myself for that one.
No, God damn, that hurts. that hurts.
It does hurt. It does hurt.
Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn, something you wish had a little more shine to it.
That's a tough one because it can be anything, Okay, I'll answer a couple of them. For a musical, John, I'd say the country artist Blaze Foley. He was friends with Townes Van Zandt, kind of that era of the outlaw country artists. He goes deeply unappreciated, man, but he was so good and so influential. And he died at a very, very young age and never got to, um, do his thing. But there was something about the authenticity. There's a couple albums he has out. One of my favorites is Live at the Outhouse, where just his banter in between songs and his performance is so raw, so authentic, so genuine, so in the moment. The crowd participation, you can hear that sometimes there's like 10 people out there, and just the back and forth, there's just something so beautiful. So yeah, for unappreciated musical artists, I'd say Blaze Foley is one of my favorites. Yeah.
That's awesome. I got to check that out. Yeah, no, I don't.
Check him out, man, and check out that album. There's something special about it. And then that's a tough one, dude. Unappreciated anything else? Oh man, I guess if I'm getting all introspective, just appreciating the life that we actually have. A lot of times it's easy to complain and look how things are bad and this and that. And back in the day, I was that way. And even now, even though sometimes I'll find myself like comparing to others or this and that, and just backing up and appreciating what you do have and being okay with it. And not that it's not going to get better and grow, but just, I guess it's hard to put into words, but that feeling, that's been a big one for me, man. And not always feeling like more and trying to constantly push, enjoying the moment, being present in the here and now, whether it's whatever it is, because I've had hard times in the past that I look back on now and almost appreciate, and kind of made me who I am, so kind of appreciating your circumstances, even though they may be rough right now. It's not always going to be this way. And sometimes you'll look back and find that those times were better than you remember, maybe when you were going through them.
I love that a lot. I dig that a lot, man. And I 100% agree. Like that's a phenomenal answer.
Thank you.
Number 8, favorite album. And I know that's a hard one, but.
Again, I'll have to do like 2 or 3 and it's not limited to this because there's so many. But the Mars Volta, there's one album, and I guess I'll tell this story. I did acid for the first time when I was in college and had my first psychedelic experience, right? And I had loved this album already. This album's called Amputexture, and it's one of their wildest with like the experimenting of sounds. And man, I remember listening to this album and just weeping, and just having a spiritual experience while on a psychedelic, of course, to this album. And to this day, man, it's just, that album had a big impact on me. And just the way that Cedric performs his vocals, like you can tell he's bleeding and just really letting go of stuff in his performance. And that's just one of my favorite things. And it really made me feel things. And yeah, that experience was wild. So that's one. That's for the more rock realm, I'd say that. For country music, I'd say Townes Van Zandt, the album Be Here to Love Me, has a lot of songs that I just find really classic. And there is a darkness to Townes Van Zandt, and sadness, and just something that he wasn't the best singer, right? And he wasn't like the soulful guy or whatever, but there's something about, again, the authenticity, and almost a lot of his songs are like an admittance, like he's admitting something, and just like it's raw. So that for like the more folk country type. And then instrumentally, there is a movie called The Fountain that I'm not sure if you've seen, by Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack to that, oh my God, mixed with that movie. So the soundtrack for The Fountain, man, that one is massive to me. There's something about it. I think it was done with the instrumental band Mogwai, if I'm not mistaken, with Clint Mansell. That's right, Clint Mansell, and I believe it was Mogwai. So you have this like post-rock hardcore instrumental with Clint Mansell's kind of like symphonic composing that is just unmatched to this day for me.
That's awesome. My buddy and I, we got into a conversation. He was on the very first season of this, and he's an enormous soundtrack guy. But we go deep on. I don't know if you're familiar with the Cloud Atlas soundtrack, but that is another one that is just
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've seen the movie, but I don't know why I never connected to. I'm gonna look that one up.
There you go. One for you, one for me.
Oh yeah.
Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release.
Yeah, this Chicago instrumental rock / post-hardcore, no vocals. Their name is Russian Circles, and I fucking love them, man. Everything they put out, I feel like is right on the money. I've seen them live a couple times and just is good live and intense. There's something about it, man. There's it's ambient, it's atmospheric, but it also hits hard and is like heavy hitting rock and just really rhythmic and tons of mathematical kind of polyrhythm. It's just, I love it. It's beautiful. And it like makes you feel something about the atmosphere ambient thing on top of all that happening just gives me chills. Like it's like a beautiful brain puzzle, like when you're watching and experiencing. It's wild. Yeah.
That's awesome. You're giving me a whole list of things to check out today, man.
Check it out. Russian Circles, man. I love them. Yeah. I'll rep that.
That's awesome. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Again, can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah. I think getting chills from something, whether that be a movie, a book, a concept or idea, or music, that's obviously my number one thing. Yeah, just getting chills and feeling something that you can't explain from an experience. Or like it can be a view. You pull off on the highway and there's this epic view. Or traveling and experiencing things too. I think most of my favorite people are people that have lived a life where they've gone and kind of explored and have been open to experiences, and it really changes them. And, I guess just, experiencing new things and broadening your horizons. And then that feeling of getting chills from whatever it may be is one of my favorite experiences.
That's killer. I dig it. One of the other things that I just glanced down and I can't believe I completely forgot to bring up when we were talking about covers. And this is just praise. This isn't even a conversation to be had. The fucking Number of the Beast cover, my friend, that was a choice. And fuck
all
you.
Right. I have to come clean here. Have you heard of Djali Zwan?
No.
So do you know the movie, I think it's called Spun, about meth and all this other hard drug stuff? So there's a cover in the movie. I did not translate Number of the Beast in the way that I did from the original song. I translated my version from the version by Djali Zwan, DJALIZWAN. And their version is basically the catalyst for my version to come about. It's not the same. It's different in its own way. Theirs is much more mellow and way more, but it's still haunting. And they translated the song into that, which made me get inspired and translate it into my way.
All right. Well, it worked, man.
Check it out, though. Their version's phenomenal. And I think, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard the Djali Zwan is Billy from the Smashing Pumpkins project.
Oh, right.
I'm not positive. I heard that. It might be a rumor, but I think it may be. So who knows? Maybe I should Google it and get some more knowledge. But yeah, man, I love that cover. I love seeing people when I'm playing that, especially in the beginning when they didn't know. And I'm going through like the verse and they're like, I know this. What is this? And then the chorus hits and they're like, no way. It's undeniable when the chorus hits,
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Other than the tour, you got any you recording going on?
Yeah, man. I just got done tracking a full length album. It's supposed to be an EP. It's a concept EP. I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to do a Western gunslinger, Ennio Morricone style, old school Wild West musical kind of EP concept. And so I did. I wrote it this beginning of this year, pretty much, and fleshed it out, got ideas, got my band to play on it, track the whole thing. It's being mixed and mastered right now. And we put out 2 songs from it. One's called I Want More, which is basically in the concept line is when the outlaw is running from the law. He crosses over the border into Mexico, and it's his experience kind of going into that realm and that world. And then Six Shells is the other song we just put out from it, which is the beginning, the first lyrical content line and story. It kind of tells the story of how he became an outlaw and what happened to him and what made this story come about, and starts off the tale. So yeah, it's probably one of my favorite things I've done, man. The longer I record and write, the better I feel it. I know how to get across what I'm trying to do. And I'm really excited for this one. So this one's going to come out, I believe, November 3rd is the goal. So we tour. We're going to play a few of the songs. Obviously, I Want More in Six Shells, but there's another song we're going to play called Muerte Mi Amor, which is, I don't know, I have a good feeling that it's really going to resonate with my audience. It's one of the most emotionally intense and songs I've ever written. So it's like 6 minutes long, but it doesn't feel that way to me. And it's just an acoustic. It's a Spanish guitar and my voice, and that's it. And there's something about it, man, that just I can't put my finger on it. When I first was writing it, I got emotional. I teared up. And when I was recording it, it happened the same way. And sometimes when I listen to it, it gets me again. And I'm like, that's everything I need to know. So we're going to be performing that live. It will not be released before the tour, but then after the tour is over, about a week or 2 after, the album drops. So we're really excited for it. And the album announced first here. I haven't even announced this, but the name of the album is going to be called Honor and Vengeance.
God damn, that's killer. I love it, man. I can't wait to hear that. That just sounds so fucking powerful. The live version of I Want More that's also on what you put out sounds incredible. So I can only imagine what these things are going to sound like live. Yeah,
we're doing them. I Want More, the live version, we played it in Brazil with the full band, and it gives a whole nother energy to it, because the version, the album version versus the acoustic version versus this new version we're doing with the band. I love to do that too. Sometimes you'll hear it just like the album, but for me, I like to mix things up, and create a new experience. So it's a powerful performance live, and I can't wait to be doing it night to night and see what people think.
That's awesome. Well, if these cool cats and kittens want to find you on the internet, what's the best way to track you down?
Yeah. So, if you go to ShawnJamesMusic.com, it's got all my links, but, I'm on Instagram, TikTok. Most of it is at Shawn James Music. I think YouTube, if you want to see performance videos and shows and stuff like that, it's Shawn James Soul. And then, the tickets are still available. Some are getting close to selling out. Most of the VIPs are gone, but I think there's a handful left. But yeah, you can go to ShawnJamesMusic.com. And all the dates are listed there. They give you a direct link where to get the tickets. And yeah, we're really, really excited about this one. It's our last tour was in the summer of 22. So it's been a little bit, and we're ready to get back out there for the US, that is. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Shawn, thank you so much for doing this and coming on here. And not just for that, but for creating all of the beautiful music you've created and all of the energy you've put out into the world. And I am just so happy that we got to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah, man. Like I said before, podcasts or interviews that go like this, where it just feels like a comfortable conversation and a back and forth, are my favorite, because I feel like I even talk about things that I wouldn't have planned to. And it's just, you really created the format and experience and atmosphere for it to be good. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. I know my fans are going to love this one.
What an awesome dude. My thanks again to Shawn for joining me on the show today. Shawn will be performing with his band this Friday, October 6th at the World Cafe Live in Philadelphia. Doors are at 7 with the show starting at 8 p.m. Tickets are still available for that show and the other dates on the remainder of his tour. Visit www.shawnjamesmusic.com for those tour dates and tickets. His latest singles, Six Shells, The Outlaws Anthem, and I Want More from the upcoming concept EP Honor and Vengeance are available now on all streaming services. And Honor and Vengeance is tentatively due out on November 3rd, so be on the lookout for that. You can find Shawn on the socials at Shawn James Music on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, and on Facebook and YouTube at Shawn James Soul. Links to all of those, as always, are in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And guys, it is not too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout merit badge for citizenship of the world just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for articles, merchandise, and links to all of the previous episodes of this podcast. And while you are there, be sure to sign up on our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter X at Yo That's My Jawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. Can you believe it's October already? Spooky season is upon us. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.